So business continuity takes it one step further. So I mentioned the fact that we have to back up those critical files. I also mentioned the fact that it's important for you to know that recovery point objective and that recovery time objective. Let's dig a little deeper into business continuity. So I mentioned what are some of the differences between that traditional backup and business continuity. And one of them was the hybrid cloud-based backup. So you would have your local appliance that's backing up everything for quick restores. But in case of a disaster, we have two locations on opposite sides of the country, Pennsylvania and Utah, that have your data being collected. The reason why we picked this, it wasn't just because those were our two favorite states. It's because, let's say, for example, if there was a natural disaster where you are in Pennsylvania is also affected, you can feel safe that your data is still being collected out there in Utah, again, on both sides of the state, not leaving the country. The Datto continuity data flow kind of looks like this. So at the bottom there, you'll see physical production machines. That's your network. That's the computers you use every day that you log in to do your work. You'll have some virtual infrastructure as well. And then you'll have the virtual physical Datto device. So that's the Datto device that sits on the site that allows you to have virtual machines and offsite cloud locations. And like we said, you have those two locations. Everything needs to be automated. And I believe the world we live in today, everything should be automated. I know at home, I make sure that my outdoor lights come on at a certain time, and I've set that up so that I don't have to think about even telling anybody or going and flipping the switch myself, that I want at 8 o'clock every night, I want my lights outside to turn on. Everything needs to be automated, especially when it comes to your data collection. You would be able, the folks at Twinstate can go into the portal and customize how often you want those backups to happen. For the example you see here today, it's Monday to Friday, every single hour during business hours. The truth is there's no real right or wrong answer on how many times or how much backup you need to take. For every business, it's different, and Twinstate will help you customize that. But the good news is it's automated. So you don't have to have somebody have a reminder in their calendar to do it. It just happens. And what's even better is that it's completely apparent if there's ever an issue. If you see here, this was a completely clean backup. If there was ever an issue, you would see a red dot there instead of green, and Twinstate would get an alert, and they can call you and they can look into investigate why there was an issue. So you know that there's an issue, so you can fix it before there's a disaster, before you need to actually collect that data and realize that your backups weren't happening for an entire month. So now if you need to get back up and running, you've lost a month worth of data. That would never happen with this. Because of the intelligent business continuity, you would be able to catch it, and Twinstate can help with that. Image-based. So what's image-based backup versus file-based backup? Well, if you look at the traditional backup and the backups that you've been doing for years, file-based backup means that every file gets backed up by its own. So it's almost like if you think of like a chain. So if every file is a chain, if one of those links in the chain are broken, that whole link, that whole chain can't be used. Image-based instead is exactly what it sounds like. It's a complete mirror image of everything in your system. But what happens when you need to restore? So let's say that disaster happened. Let's say you were cyber attacked and you need to restore. When you do it through file-based, it's going to be your operating system. It's going to be all your applications and then all your files. So you can imagine how long that would take. If you think about everything that you have on your systems today, you probably don't even realize how much you have on your systems. This could take a really long time. When it comes to image-based, because it's an exact mirror image, it's that much quicker. It allows you to get it back up and running to a state that where you were before as quickly as possible. And because you have access to the portal, if you were to ever have that type of disaster, Twinstate would be able to go back. Let's say, for example, you get that dreaded red message that you have ransomware at 10 or 11 o'clock today. They will be able to go back and realize that you had a clean backup taken at 10 a.m. and recover you to that point, because then they know for sure that you didn't have any ransomware at that point, and get you back to that point as quickly as possible, as easy as that. Virtualization capabilities. I mentioned as well, instant virtualization is something that really sets us apart. So you log into your computer, you get that red message, you connect to that local appliance, and of course the folks at Twinstate would help with this. They would connect to that and get you back up and running virtually to a virtual state, so you have back up and running like nothing ever happened as quickly as possible. The benefits of virtualization, the benefits that you have is that it reduces that downtime. I've heard most stories about virtualization taking minutes. When you don't have virtualization, to get back up and running to the state could take hours, days, weeks. So it really does reduce that downtime, and it helps with that recovery time objective and the recovery point objective, because two things happen. That recovery time objective is small, and you want it to be as small as possible because you want to be back up and running as quickly as possible. And it helps with that recovery point objective because you know exactly when you can go back and get that clean system back up and running. And you have options. So I'm showing here on the screen a local virtualization, but you also have the cloud as an option as well. So if something were to happen, it wasn't a cyber attack, but instead of some type of natural disaster or a fire, you would be able to use the cloud to get back up and running. So let's say you have a new computer, you virtualize, and you get back up and running to that state. So it completely looks at that recovery point objective and the recovery time objective, and it really does slim it down to make sure that you understand you can be back up and running as quickly as possible.